Hi everyone. So we're just starting out. I just got the Yeti microphone and the C992 Logistream webcam. So right now it's just the mirror to show some of the art, but I gotta figure out. I think I'm just gonna kind of turn things around when I record. But for now, I kind of like being able to just sit at my desk and record because a lot of times I come up with ideas while I'm typing or while I'm watching something or while I'm reading an article. So, what I wanted to talk about right now is how a lecture that I watched that I will link down below. I also linked it in my video about fearing the mentally ill, but this is sort of a follow up to that where as it turns out actually even schizophrenics. So you can think of schizophrenic people. They're less likely to do harm or be violent or commit crime than non-mentally ill people, which is crazy when you think about it because this is a Stanford professor of like he seems to be like a mix of anthropology, psychology and linguist because he talks a lot about how he was observing social behaviors in like more traditional hunter gatherer societies that he was camping out near. I believe this case was in Africa, and I don't remember which part of Africa though. He might not have mentioned because the point was that even in this village that is living the same way that humans lived thousands and thousands of years ago, schizophrenics are ostracized completely and treated poorly. Like, there's no society where they're considered blessed because schizophrenics can't speak reasonably and they can't behave normally. And so it really affects the the ability of the schizophrenic person to have any kind of social function or help because in every this professor says in every society in all of history there's no tolerance for like rambling rambling schizophrenics, right? They're either just left to be homeless, they're considered crazy, they're considered this and that, and most definitely considered dangerous. This professor brings up a story where a schizophrenic guy in Berkeley, I guess, like killed a bunch of people. He killed like three people while in some crazy psychotic state. And this professor was talking about how that's the same thing that people do with you know with with non-legal immigrants, right? Like, you can talk about any group and show the criminals and use it to say that this group is dangerous or we need less of this group or we need to put them here or keep them out or do whatever, when you have to just stick to data and look at averages. And I was very surprised. Even me, okay? Cuz I'm bipolar and I've always been afraid of schizophrenics. Like I know like I've always thought that schizophrenics are liable to act unpredictably and dangerously. When in reality a normal person is more likely to do that statistically because it's all about when someone decides to hit their final straw. Like, break the camel's back. You can see, I can link, well, no, I won't link it because YouTube will take it down, but there was an incident in Philadelphia a couple months ago. Dr. Todd Grande, the YouTuber, he did a video on it. And basically, it's these neighbors arguing. And one neighbor calls another neighbor a pussy. He says, pussy, pussy, pussy. And then the guy who was called a pussy just goes back into his house, grabs an AR, comes out, or no, he grabbed a handgun first, comes out and just shoots him. And then he goes back into his house while they're bleeding out on the ground because he shot him with a handgun. He goes back into his house, comes back out with an AR and executes the two of them with the AR, and then he goes back into his house and he kills himself. And you can hear Dr. Todd Grande say that guy is not mentally ill. He just necessarily, he could have just been having a really bad day and he decided that he didn't want to be alive anymore. And then people called him a pussy. And so he decided I might as well take him with me. Like, the people who are crazy are too out of it to even want to hurt anyone because they're in their own world seeing demons and hearing voices in their heads. They're not as plugged in. You call them a pussy, they're like, what? They don't even understand what the hell's going on. So they can panic and freak out. But it's not the same. Now they are more liable to hurt themselves. But, schizophrenics, bipolar, I've noticed so much stigma. Like, around bipolar people, even schizophrenics, like, having weapons and things. And it's like, well, if schizophrenics are statistically less likely to hurt other people, weapon or not, there's simply no basis, if they don't commit a crime, to say that they shouldn't have guns or have this or that because they don't shoot people, even when they have guns, right? So it's like, but they're more likely to shoot themselves. That's the problem. That's why they shouldn't. And that's why I don't anymore, right? Because it's like, you're more likely to hurt yourself. And that's true. And that's something that you really have to be aware of if you have mental illness, is that you can't make it like, it's scary how easy it is to kill yourself all the time because it's like, in college, I lived on top of a really tall building, right? And I lived on like the fourth floor. So at any time to kill myself, it's like, yeah, I didn't have a gun, but all I had to do was just break my window and do a head dive off the fourth story. I'm not going to survive. I thought about that constantly. I thought about doing that constantly. So it's like you're always dealing with it, but there's no, you have to be aware that, I mean, for me, I've always been afraid. Like it's you have to be aware of the danger that you have to yourself because you don't want one moment to define the rest of your life, like one moment in suicide to define the rest of your future. So, um, yeah, but how hard is it? In my head, I can't get rid of the stigma of the idea that a schizophrenic with a gun is going to shoot people. Maybe, but he's not any more likely to do it than anybody else. In fact, he's less likely. And I didn't believe it, but a Stanford professor said it, and I'm going to link it. I don't know what else I can say. I don't know what else what argument is there? There isn't one. So, if you don't commit a crime, this and that, like being all messed up in your head, I just want to help them and care about them. And, most schizophrenics, man, they're the strongest people because they've lost their mind. It's like, it's worse. They've lost their mind. And it's going to be, if you do watch the linked video, you don't believe me, you want to watch the Stanford professor, I will worry you. It's disturbing. Just to understand what schizophrenics go through and what the disease does and what it's like and just what happens to them, like, it's horrifying on a level that no other illness is because most illnesses are external. But with schizophrenia, you lose your very mind, your ability to think and know what's real and not real. And so hell on earth becomes manifest, you know? All the demons in your mind become real. You're living in a dream. You're basically in a waking nightmare forever and ever. I don't know why my monitor just shut off. Something weird just happened to my computer. Wow, whoa. I wonder if that was a power outage or something. Anyway. So yeah, it's just a kind of stigma of like, oh, someone's unstable, so they should have less rights. Well, you need proof for that. Because, normal people go crazy too. But you have to realize, guys, it's so social. Think about how social it all is. Like, society, a lot of people who are murderers and all that, just spontaneously, like they lose all their value or their worth or their sense of it in the society. And schizophrenics lose everything in that regard. And I just want to say to anyone out here who's schizophrenic, you are valuable because you've survived, and that makes you strong. That's it. That's all you had to do. All you had to do if you're schizophrenic is survive, and you're stronger. And you're valuable. I want to talk to you. I want to understand. They don't want to talk about it because it's horrifying and nobody else understands. So I don't have to talk about your private experiences, but your strength, because they can make it through anything. And people, figure, oh, well, they don't work, they live off, like, oh, they can't work, or they're homeless, or they're rambling, or they don't make any sense. And I listened to this professor talking about schizophrenia, and I realized that that's how people treat me when I'm manic. You know? People are just like, oh, well, this person's unstable, so let's control them and put them in a cage. And it's like, but I'm not danger, but I've never hurt anybody. And it's like, doesn't matter. You act in a way that makes us uncomfortable. It's like Eminem singing, "I'ma fucking kill you," It's like, Shady, gonna fucking kill you, And it's like, you don't want to fuck with Shady because Shady's gonna fucking kill you. And like, I don't even talk like that. But is Eminem schizophrenic? No, he sings like that. So like, does he lose his? Is he unstable? No. It's you start to realize the more you think about it that it doesn't make any sense. And you listen to this Stanford professor and you realize that you have no actual standing. It's just a prejudice. And it's a prejudice that exists in all societies, all through history. Prejudice and stigma against the mentally ill. Well, as a guy who is bipolar but not schizophrenic, like, I guess I'm sort of a middleman where I can see how I'm treated by people who aren't bipolar, and so I should stop treating schizophrenics the way that I'm treated because I have done that, and I'm guilty of that. So recently, when I notice someone's mentally ill and like shouting on the street corner, I haven't thought that they're dangerous. I've said in my head, okay, this guy's yelling at a lamppost on the street corner right now, and he's not making any sense. But if he was dangerous, he'd be in jail because he's a homeless guy and he's managed to make it this far without hurting anybody, presumably. Right now, it's possible they just got out of jail. So I'd be careful right now, okay, with COVID. Like, it's possible that they are dangerous and they just got out of jail. So don't do this in general. But for me personally, what I mean is, I don't. There's no point in going and trying to talk to them when they're in that mental state. But now when I see homeless people that are like after they have that episode and they're kind of maybe more calmed down or they just got medicine or anything, like I just try to show them love and compassion, and I give them change, and I tell them, hey man, like, it's like you show them that they're not worthless just because they weren't able to function in the system. It's like, dude, you got this illness. It's fine. It's fine. And so, you just want to try to show mentally ill people, especially the ones who can't function, just show them that they're valuable, because I value their experience because they're strong. And I value all strong people. They're strong as hell. It's not easy to live like that. It's like Nietzsche said, the lazy are neither rich nor poor because both require too much effort. That's like me, right? I'm like a minimalist. I don't want to be homeless and I don't want to be really rich because then I have too many responsibilities. Like I have to, it's too much of a pain in the ass. So I think that if we made homeless people, a lot of it's social. Like we can throw money at it, but at the end of the day, it's like we can make mentally ill people and homeless people just feel like they're valuable and that we're not afraid of them and we don't treat them like animals and talk to them. You know, you can talk to some homeless people and it really means a lot when they're shown kindness. It really matters to them because they remember that when you're mentally ill, I've explained it on this channel how mine works, but it's like you're living in hell and the world hates you and the world's all evil. And so all you have to do is not be one of the demons. And it can be like, yeah, hey, I know there's demons in your head. I know there's demons in your bed. I know there's demons in your mind. But that's all they are. Screw them. And you just show them kindness and they'll remember that love is real. And don't try to just control them, take away their rights. Oh, you shouldn't have this, you shouldn't have that, you shouldn't do this. Let's treat you different. Let's treat you different. Screw that. Screw that. If you want to treat them different, you need proof. You need a crime, you need evidence that they're more likely to do this or that, you know. So, anyways, I'm not just talking about, you know, obviously the Second Amendment is a very, very extreme case. But I'm talking about all kinds of things. It's like the right to dignity, guys. The right to basic dignity. And if you gave them basic dignity, you wouldn't even be thinking about taking things from them, but that's not the point for me. It's more just about treating them with dignity. You know? Like Second Amendment is like the most extreme hyperbolic case. That's why I use it cuz it's the most, you know, it's like but you can extrapolate it to everything like when they get committed involuntarily, is it because they were acting crazy or is it just because they were this or that? And I asked police officers like a week ago actually. This was before I watched this Stanford professor's lecture on schizophrenia, and there was a schizophrenic guy hanging out by Panda Express just screaming outside this front of Panda Express at a statue. He was really really mad at this statue and he was screaming at it. And, you know, they called the police for public disturbance, and it's very worrisome because if you want to look up, there was a man named Kelly Thomas, a schizophrenic man who lived in Fullerton, and he was breaking. He was probably like the police believe that he was like one of the petty criminals breaking into cars and things in downtown Fullerton, and you know, the altercation happened and Kelly Thomas died. They killed him. They just beat the shit out of him and he died from the stress and injuries. So I was very worried. Like, it's such a tough situation. So I asked the police officers after because they didn't arrest the guy. They just told him to like go away from other people, kind of. They just like made him go away. And this is why society has all societies in human history have intolerance because how are you what can you do? It's like they're being crazy. They're like eating dirt and yelling throwing poop at a statue or something, you know? It's like they're and so I remember asking the police officers like what are we supposed to do because I know that you don't want to have to maybe hurt that guy or get in a fight with him for no reason if he's not hurting anyone because, you know, you might beat him up or even kill him and that's not right. So it's like they don't want to have to go beat people up who aren't hurting anyone else. And the police told me they were like, well, it really has to depend on if they're like posing a danger or not. So I want to tell people Okay, well, so I then did research. I wanted to learn about schizophrenia more. Like, well, do they pose a danger? Is that guy dangerous? The guy yelling at the statue, is he dangerous? No, he's not actually. He's just crazy. So we need to just help these people, and getting them to inpatient would be really good. But it's hard to involuntarily commit and give them a 5150. But it's like that guy clearly needs to go to a facility and get medication. Like clearly. So we have to try to get away, but for me, it's like the only reason why. Oh no, my monitor is turning off again. The only reason why I didn't want to get mental health care is because of the stigma, and I knew that if I ever went, I would be labeled as one of the crazy people. But if it's more just like, I can do an interview with Rob, the schizophrenic I know, um, and he can talk about how the inpatient is more of just a sanctuary. If you go there voluntarily, like Rob has been an inpatient 6 times and never involuntary. I'm at 1 time voluntary, 0 times involuntary, but I'm bipolar, not schizophrenic. So, um, like Rob was strong enough to just, well, actually, he was just so broken that he couldn't care about the stigma anymore because it's like, well, I'm just broken. Like, my mind is broken. So, I'm going to do an interview with Rob about how all that works. But, like, if you're schizophrenic or you're worried or you're starting to hear voices, like, the medicines now, guys, compared to what they used to be, you can talk to Rob. He's had schizophrenia since the 80s, and he can tell you in 30 years what it looks like, the difference. Like, even he is chill now with Zyprexa. We take the same medicine. I take half the dose of him. We take the same freaking medicine. I'm like a mini schizophrenic, except not at all. It's just that the same medicine can help with some of the same symptoms, but you can't think of it as the professor says. It's clearly many diseases. It's clearly many different diseases that we're categorizing because we're kind of in the dark ages. Cool, guys. First episode for my new mic. Kind of a follow up to my initial "Don't Judge the Mentally Ill" because I was kind of raging when I made the first one. So, yeah, cool.